Good evening. Welcome to Son of Bastard Answers. The real Manos posed 11 questions to his fans to answer, and I'm chiming in with mine. Check out his channel. I'll put it up in the right, the left. Your right, my right, left. Whatever. He's got a great channel, and I highly recommend checking him out. Question number 1 is, what was your first comic? My first comic was G.I. Joe number 23. I was probably about 9 at the time. All I remember is that it had this really cool cover of Breaker, I believe, and Roadblock, and they had Cobra Commander in handcuffs, and they were like guarding him. It just looks absolutely cool. Question number 2 is, should writers use real-world issues in their stories? I would say yes, to an extent. I think they should take something that's happening in the world and put their own little spin on it, you know. Make up new names and new locations to protect the innocent or guilty. But I think comics are a very good way of showing people problems in the world without getting on a soapbox. You know, I think if a writer is able to take things that are happening in the world and craft it into a well-written story, it just proves how great of a writer he truly is. Question number 3 is, death pointless now in superhero comics? Well, I gotta say, yeah. I mean, people have died and come back so many times. You know, what's the point? It's done for shock value. And then another writer comes along and says, well, I like that character, but he's dead. I'll just bring him back, and think of some lame excuse to bring him back. Very rarely have I read a story where I said, oh, I can see why they brought that person back. And the way they brought it back is so cool. You know, that rarely happens to me. And that's a shame. Question number 4 is, name your top 5 comic series of all time. Well, I could go with, like, Watchmen and all of these comics that people have probably heard of or read cover to cover, and they pretty much know every line and every page. I'm going to decide to go with 5 comic series that people might not have read, but they mean a lot to me. Number 5 is The Losers. It was put out by Vertigo. It lasted for 32 issues. It was by Andy Diggle and an artist named Jock. I really like this reboot. It was originally, the concept was a World War II group of people who came from different parts of the armed forces, and they were all losers. They had, something had happened to them, like people had died around them, and they banded together and they managed to survive. I guess all of their bad luck canceled each other out. The new series doesn't really go into that area about them. The group that is formed are all part of a unit, I guess ex-CIA, and they were all left for dead on a mission, and the whole series is them finding out who left them for dead and getting revenge. Think of it as like Burn Notice on USA. I don't know if you watch that at all. That comes highly recommended as well. But think of that only with a group of people. It's a really good series. I recommend it to anybody. Number 4 is The Nam. This was a comic series about Vietnam, written by Doug Murray. I especially like the first 12 issues because they're illustrated by Michael Golden. I really like his artwork. And the storylines are really engaging. It lasted for 84 issues, and towards the end it got really, not bad, but it just, I think it outstayed its welcome. I think they should have moved on. Number 3 is Transformers Generation 2. This was by Simon Furman. It came out around 93. It ran for 12 issues. It was a maxi series. I really like this story. It's very gritty, it's very dark, and it's a very engaging storyline. I just remember reading this when I was probably about 18 or so, and just being floored by it. It was just, after reading the original Marvel comics, to read this was just amazing. Number 2 is the Chris Claremont portion of Uncanny X-Men. I think during his run, he was there for like maybe 10 years, more than 10 years. He just had some brilliant stories. I didn't start collecting until about issue 240, but I was hooked instantly by then. And I liked that time period because the X-Men weren't together. They were split apart. It was shortly before they walked through the Siege Perilous. I think it was just around the time of Inferno is when I kind of got into it. I also liked later storylines like the Extinction Agenda, and I liked it because that hit and it was a major storyline. And then another one came where Leela Cheney, I think that's her name, kidnapped the X-Men to go rescue the Professor. And then another storyline happens immediately after that, which is the Muir Island Saga. I especially like the Muir Island Saga because I got to see Freedom Force. I really like Freedom Force. If there is a team these days that deserves a comic book of their own, it is Freedom Force. Forget the Dark Avengers, forget the Thunderbolts, Freedom Force is where it's at. And my number 1 favorite comic series of all time is G.I. Joe! Seriously, this is the comic that started me reading comics, and I followed it ever since. In its heyday, Larry Hama crafted some brilliant stories. The Battle for Springfield, the Cobra Island Civil War, the whole story behind Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, the Hard Master and the Soft Master and Zartan, and eventually how Firefly fit into the whole scheme of things. The Hunt for Destro, Billy, the son of Cobra Commander. This was a soap opera for kids who loved to play war, and honestly, I was one of those kids. You know, I'm definitely peace-loving, but there's just something about G.I. Joe that really did it for me. And some of the covers, if you go look at a cover gallery of G.I. Joe, some of them are just so amazing. Like issue number 23. I think it's issue number 27 where there's an aerial view of a plane coming down on a G.I. Joe tank. You know, there's issue 21 with the silent interlude. Further down the road, there's a I think it's like 84 or 85. It's one of the Hunt for Destro issues where it has a wanted poster with Destro on it, and down it says Dead or Alive. It's just, some of them are so creative and so amazing. Question number 5 is, which films should Mystery Science Theater 3000 make fun of? I'd really like to see them make fun of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1956 version. I'd also like to see them make fun of The Forbidden Planet. Both of them are you know, decent movies, but they gotta be made fun of. Come on. The way I see things is that I make fun of things that I like. I say if you can make fun of anything, nothing can get you upset. It's one of the reasons why I like This Island Earth so much and how they made fun of it. If you look at the movie, it's a bad movie. I mean, the people that were critical of them saying, you know, why do you make fun of this movie? Have you seen it? Like, Mike Nelson says at one point, have you seen this movie lately? And I agree with him. It's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie. And it was ripe for them to make fun of. So, I liked it.